how do you have a rubber arm? How do you throw so fast? Usually when I threw 95 miles an hour at my fastest, but I would be sore. I would be tight and hurting the next day. I would have. What's going on, guys? Coach Bat and YouGoProBaseball. I'm here with Craig Stem, also known as Brazo de Goma.
Brazo de Goma.
I said it right?
You said it right.
What does that mean?
That means, in Spanish, that means the rubber arm.
The rubber arm. And we're gonna talk about in this video how to have an arm that never hurts, because you never really got sore too much, did you?
Right. Could throw many days in a row, several innings, multiple innings, and I was
threw pretty fast.
Yeah, up to 94, 95 miles an hour.
Very nice. So we're gonna get into that in this video, but before we do, I wanna show you a little something that Craig's got going on. He makes these really cool watch straps for Apple Watches, Fitbits, all different things, made from baseballs, gloves, whatever it is, you gotta go check them out. I'll leave a link down below where you can find more information about that. But let's get into the video. Tell me, how do you have a rubber arm? How do you throw so fast? Usually when I threw 95 miles an hour at my fastest, but I would be sore. I would be tight and hurting the next day. I would have to do a lot of rehab to get my arm back in shape to be ready to pitch again.
Right.
What were you doing?
Well, I wish that I could tell you that I had this insanely intricate arm care program. I got to the field 3 hours before everybody else and just was doing bands and weighted balls for days. But that's not really the case. It didn't work out like crazy. For me, I focused a lot on the mechanics, man. And I think that I eliminated any kind of movement that created unnecessary stress on my arm. Once I did that, throwing hard was effortless, and I felt that I could do it every single day. And obviously I built my arm up to handle that, but 99% of that was just the mechanics.
So give me a couple of specifics mechanic-wise that really helped you.
There's a few misconceptions that I feel like everybody kind of falls for in the pitching world. Everybody wants to achieve this layback, right? So when we talk about layback, we're just talking about the external rotation of the arm right here, right? So one of the biggest factors for me was learning how to lay that back late and effortlessly. And one thing that everybody tries to do is if you stand right here and you try to achieve some layback with your arm facing like this, if you go obtuse and try to lay it back, it goes a little bit, it kind of pinches a little bit. If you go right at 90, try to lay back, you can go a little bit further. But the big move that everybody seems to miss out on is if you turn your thumb backwards, supinate it a little bit, now I have a ton more freedom and it doesn't hurt at all. That was a big one for me. When I'm loading backwards, I want to try to work my hand into this position as I'm laying backwards, right? That was a huge one.
So now, I always heard coming up in Little League and as a young baseball player, I was always taught to kind of point that ball back to second base. And this is kind of like early pronated, not very supinated. How does that work in the bat, as you're getting there?
Right, so on the back side, if you want to point the ball back towards center field, like so, if you want to do that, you can, but you got to get it turned back around. That's the thing. If you're not getting it turned back around, what you end up doing is this ends up dragging, right? And just from this feeling right here, you're trying to lay back too early because your body feels rushed. It feels like I'm not gonna get rid of this ball on time. So it starts to lay back early and try to get out front. And that creates a ton of stress on the back of the shoulder. It makes it really difficult to get your release point out in front of you, and you end up releasing it back here. And when you release it back here, you can see the shoulder pops up like that. For me, I always took the ball out of my glove like so and kind of floated into this position to where I can easily turn this ball towards my head as I start to lay back and then get that ball out in front and throw. And that not only does it help you throw harder, it takes an insane amount of stress off of the elbow and the shoulder.
Just when you were talking about that, it made me think when you were showing this, outside going back, inside going back, and then supinated going back, try going this way and going back. It's even worse.
It's impossible.
So yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask you this a little bit about, even though you said you didn't have a great pre-game, post-game or arm care recovery routine, were you an ice guy? Were you not an ice guy? Me personally, I went through different phases in my career. Sometimes I would ice one season I wouldn't ice. What were you doing?
outside of an injury, I haven't iced my arm since I was probably 18 years old, and I'm 31 now. So it's been 13 years. You know, if I had an injury where I, had an inflammation in there, then I would ice. But for day-to-day maintenance, no, never iced. Rarely heated. I really only used like, a warming balm like Red Hot or Icy Hot or something if I was a little sore from throwing 50 pitches the day before. But other than that, I mean, I just made sure that I got my throwing in every day, and I stayed on top of my mechanics big time.
So in the championship series, you threw
The semifinals.
Semifinal series, sorry.
Yeah.
You threw 3 days in a row as a reliever, 2 innings, and then another 2 innings or 1 inning?
3 innings.
Three,
on the third day I threw 3 innings.
And you were totally fine. No,
Totally
no.
fine. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, after the third one, we had a day off, and I really needed that day.
Right.
But I mean, I just kept running out there, and I wasn't trying to overthrow, to like throw really hard. I knew that I was putting my body through something it had never been through before, and I was hyper focused on efficient mechanics to protect my arm. And my velocity did not drop hardly at all, and I didn't give up a run in any of those games.
And so velocity was on the third day in the third inning, you're still pumping it, 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour slower, that's it.
Wow. Now let me ask you this. What about communication with your coach as well as communication with yourself about your arm? How do you go about that?
Well, it was pretty unique because I would come in and it just kind of, I was the hottest pitcher in the bullpen at the time, right? Besides maybe the closer, but he was only going to throw 1 inning and it was going to be the last inning. So for the middle of the road relievers, I was the hottest guy. So every day I came in, my coach is asking me, can you go today? And I can tell on the second day, he's kind of like not expecting me to say yeah. And I'm going, yeah, I can pitch. And he's like, really? And I'm like, I mean, I'm just listening to my body.
Right.
And I feel like I can pitch, honestly. And I went out there and I threw the first inning. I come out of the game and he says, can you go 1 more? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, really? I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. I really feel fine. And then the same thing happened the next day. The next day, I think I told him, like, I mean, I feel pretty good right now, but let me go play catch, and then I'll tell you. And I went out to practice, and I threw, and I said, hey, I'm good. And he said, what? And yeah, I'm good. And we just, as long as I said I was good, he rolled with it, and I was honest with myself. I didn't expect to feel great.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Right.
But that was kind of a breakthrough moment for me in my career. It's like, dang, the norm is pitching and then being sore. Everybody thinks that that's normal.
And you weren't always like this, Brazo de Goma.
No, not at all, not at all. This was a period in my life where I got really into the pitching mechanics. Before that, I would say I was just a thrower. I'd just go out and let it eat, throw as hard as I could, no idea where it's going. This year, I really started to get into the mechanics of everything. Once I did that in the playoffs, it was a turning point for me. It was like, oh wow, these mechanics actually work. Not only for throwing hard or throwing strikes, but I'm not sore anymore.
Right.
Right. Crazy.
It just goes to show how much pitching mechanics, if you're being efficient with your movement and your timing. Timing is important, like Craig was talking about, how to put all of this movement, because sometimes when we talk about pitching mechanics, we like to break things down into like positions and stuff, but it's not, it's a movement. And it just goes to show that this pitching mechanics, these pitching movements, when you time them correctly, are super important and super beneficial for longevity and having a rubber arm, Brazo de Goma. If you want to find out more about what Craig's got going on, he's actually in the Asheville, North Carolina area right now. I'll leave all his information down below. He's still playing, so he might be somewhere else when you're watching this video. But again, I'll leave his contact information down below. You can chat with him, talk some pitching, maybe get some training with him. All that stuff is down below. If you want to check out some of the watch straps that he's got going on, I'll leave all that information down below as well. Thank you so much. We're going to shoot some more videos for you guys. We'll see you in the next one.